All right, Tyler, what is your definition of strength?
Definition of strength. I like the idea of strength being. I had a coach in ice hockey that always said toughness, which isn't exactly strength, but it's a close surrogate. Toughness is your ability to take punishment. He was always a kind of a bigger fan of people on the team that would, not retaliate in a sport and get called, for the penalty after the fact, but could take, the hard checks and get back up and keep playing. So that's kind of always been cemented in my mind since 18, 19. Was that toughness and strength is kind of how much you're willing to take, put on your plate, not complain about and get back up and be no worse for wear because of it.
I love it. I love it. Everybody, welcome back to Simply Satisfied. I'm your host, Greg. Today I'm joined by Tyler Smith. He goes by Ty, definitely not Lur. He
Not Lur.
is the founder of Fit, a movement where fitness meets purpose, ultimate purpose, where every challenge isn't just a number, but it's a chance to build a legacy that will outlive himself and yourself. It's all about training for a purpose, not just performance. This is Tyler's hero's journey. He went from a burnt-out fitness chaser to a purpose-driven fitness value creator. And today, we're going to dive straight into all of this stuff about fitness, about Tyler, about his life, and it's going to be amazing. Welcome to the show, Tyler.
Appreciate you having me on, Greg. Of course.
It's awesome to have you here. Now, I want to start off with, you had been telling me about some of the challenges that you were taking on recreating history with fitness. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my day job is a physical therapist. I work for the military at Camp Murray, Washington in the Air National Guard. And so I get every federal holiday off as the blessing of that job, working for the government in a sense. So instead of sitting around, I was kind of thinking, what's the significance again of this day? Why are we getting this day of rest? And maybe it's the ADHD in me or something, but as a kind of curiosity-driven challenge or project in 2024, I took that on as like a way to honor the legacy of people that have, worked hard to get us a day of rest. And I wanted to kind of do a little bit of a historical deep dive into what the day meant, if I could do anything physically related to it, because I find great joy from pushing my limits. And then I also wanted to tie a financial donation as like a relevant give back portion of the whole event. So it started researching, obviously, Martin Luther King Jr., starting in January, and then realizing the legacy that he had. And he did a 54-mile march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama in 1965 for the Voting Rights Act. And so then I did a 54-miler ultra run, essentially. In 2024, I did it all in one day. I've since modified it, for the Triumph for the business to be a little bit more tiered, I guess. There's a gold and a silver division, but something like that, right? So every holiday from Martin Luther King through Veterans Day, I have a physical challenge based on some historical backdrop of the history of that day. We have a financial donation to a relevant organization related to that. And I'm trying to build now the community around in person with me doing these challenges.
Awesome. Now, how long have you been in the fitness realm?
Oof. Always been passionate about it. I would say because I grew up playing ice hockey, so I've always been, exercising and that kind of thing. Wrestled in high school for 2 years, but in a really big sense, I would say probably early 20s. I dislocated my shoulder in ice hockey, funny enough, in the one and only fight I ever had. Had surgery, had physical therapy, kind of got inspired to go down that path, in college. So since then, I would say I've always kind of been inspired by, pushing my limits and doing lifestyle experiments around exercise and that kind of stuff. So then that led to, we'll kind of get into it later, but the marathon chase, the Ironman chase, the XYZ kind of things that I was into. But early 20s is when I had a really big health kick. So most people kind of chase money. I think for a lot of guys chase money early on. And then once they hit that, Brian Johnson, billionaire entrepreneur level, then they go back and try and chase their health and try to live forever. I did it kind of in reverse, where I've always kind of just been more excited about the health aspect of things. If I can make a lifestyle business out of my passion of health and wellness, then that's a bonus. But I'm not really chasing the unicorn business with Triumph Fit necessarily. No.
Yeah. Well, you were the reason that my parents didn't let me play hockey, because they were like, oh, people get hurt in fights. I was like, no, they don't. I watch it on TV all the time. But your one fight proves them right. So
Absolutely. It's a brutal sport. I've broken a couple bones, but if you want to stand out, it was a tryout, and I just dropped the gloves. And I thought I won the fight because I got up and I wasn't bleeding, and then I couldn't lift my left arm. So I was like, oh, that's a
wait a minute.
problem.
This was a tryout?
This was a tryout. This was a
It wasn't
tryout.
even like a full game. It wasn't practice. This was like before
No,
the season even started. So day one, you were like, I'm getting in a fight.
yes, exactly. Day one, you gotta. I don't know. You got to stand out somehow, and I guess I wasn't meant to be the enforcer, clearly. So that wasn't my role on the team.
Okay. I got you. Well, like I said, you were the reason I was never allowed to play hockey.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sorry
your
about
fitness journey led you down this realm. Kind of the opposite of what a lot of people do is a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, they chase the money, or a lot of guys, they chase the money and then they chase the health later on. Mine was kind of similar to that, where I chased the health, and then I was like, wait a minute, these gym memberships and these proteins and these supplements, like, it's not cheap.
True.
So then you start thinking about the money, you start thinking about all this stuff, and you're like, okay, well, maybe I can figure this out. But what was some of the struggles you went through in the fitness world, or launching Triumphant, or just throughout your whole entire journey?
Yeah, I would say the immediate cause of Triumphant, in addition to the curiosity in 2024, was in 2023. I had a really tough training block where I was doing a 3-month training camp to do a sub 5-minute mile and a 315-pound front squat on the same day. That was kind of the goal. I've always been interested in hybrid training, so lifting and running and combining all different modalities. I'm a physical therapist by trade, so to avoid the overuse injuries, I find it's good to train a lot of different things. And I've always kind of gravitated to the jack of all trades, master of none categorization of fitness. And so I was trying to do a lifting and a running challenge, and it ended up being kind of a nightmare towards the end in terms of just how burnt out, fatigue ridden I was, and I couldn't barely get out of bed. I didn't want to turn the treadmill on for a significant amount of time after, and just the breakdown of the body. I ultimately hit, one of the goals. I hit the squat goal, didn't quite hit the run, sub 5-minute mile, but it kind of just made me realize all the time that I dedicated towards this, the pinnacle of whatever this new goal was, and all the things I had to put on the back burner, the relationships, single guy, no wife, no kids. So it's not like I was immediately neglecting significant relationships, but even stuff like calling your parents more or just going out for drinks or something, right? You kind of have to prioritize these things at a certain level to get there. And so it kind of became all consuming, and you're working out 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours a day, whatever. So that was late 2023. And I was kind of like, I had that realization, if I went down this path of chasing the next bigger, badder goal, whatever that is, a double Ironman, let's do an Ironman blindfolded or whatever bullshit it was, right? That instant, social media is telling you to do. I was going to die a very lonely man. There's not going to be many people at my funeral, right? And so I was like, what if I could kill myself for a productive end, turn my pain into purpose, right? And so what if I do challenges that really entertain me to push to my limit, but do that for the community to have a bigger rallying cry behind giving back and making a bigger impact in the world. So the immediate origin of Triumph, it was probably late 2023. And then 2024 kind of sparked that curiosity of what are all these holidays about? And then I was like, let's make that a thing, combine it.
Let's make it a thing.
Yeah.
And you're making it a thing.
Yeah. And the struggles with making it a thing, that's the other part of your question, right?
Yes.
That is tough because, I'm learning to embrace the, the chaos of entrepreneurship and not really feeling like you have a solid game plan, or you might draw it up perfectly, or ChatGPT can help me work through it, but then executing it is always all that matters is execution at the end of the day. Action trumps any kind of, thought or belief prior to it. So you can kind of think, oh, if I make this landing page and I make it look gorgeous and I just post that on my Instagram, it's going to blow up and I'm going to be famous. It's going to be amazing. But it's not really how that works. You have to throw out like 10, 20, 30 different landing pages, tweak them, get feedback, see what works. I don't know anything about marketing, sales. I mean, if you're a solopreneur like myself, there's a lot of hats you have to wear. And I think you just don't realize that if you've always been a W-2 employee. You don't realize all the different silos of a company that are all actively working to create a product. So it could be a very slow going process, and a little bit of frustration with that, as well as why can't I transmit my vision? I have this vision for Triumphant akin to the Murph workout. Everyone across the CrossFit gyms across the country does the Murph workout every Memorial Day, and I want Triumphant to be synonymous with that. But it's hard to drag that future vision into the present, and be patient to stack those bricks one at a time. So I would say the biggest lesson and frustration with early entrepreneurship is just being better at marketing myself and getting that vision, which I'm so passionate about, to other people to understand, and to get them to want to do hard things as well. We live in a very comfortable society, and I'm asking people to do voluntarily hard things, and whether that's a financial donation, which people don't want to do, or to go ahead and sweat and honor the legacy of Cesar Chavez, MLK, Juneteenth, all these different things. So I understand that I'm in a weird kind of space with that, but I think the trend is hopefully in the upward direction, because I think Spartan races and marathons, people are going to want to do these kind of hard human things, hopefully into the future, as automation takes over a lot of the free time that we had for other things. So I think there's still a huge boon to the population to do these kind of physical things, but sometimes to your average person, they might not understand what joy do you get out of running 54 miles, Tyler? What joy do you get out of farmers carrying 2.8 miles with half your body weight? What joy do you get out of whatever it is, right? And it sounds crazy when I tell people, but I'm like, trust me, do it, and it's fun, So that's the hard part.
And they're looking at you like you're crazy.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Your parents would be like, this is why my kid doesn't do marathons, because of you, Tyler. Exactly. Or play hockey. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned relationships and you mentioned entrepreneurship. What kind of lifestyle, what kind of habits have you had to adopt or adapt to not be so isolated, to not be so in the muck,
Yeah.
What kind of lifestyle have you had to adopt?
Yeah, I think I've adopted more of the community mindset when it comes to fitness, right? So I think I had just over indexed on the fitness category in a lot of my life, in a lot of ways. Like, if life is a video game, I had been getting, my character traits would have been like 98% fitness. Like, I'm almost maxed out on that, right? So what about your social and relationships and financial health and all those kind of things, right? So there are different categories in the video game. And so now my kind of broad purpose is to bring the community in, either through Triumphant's personal events, or through in January I reached out and found about a group called F3, Fitness, Faith, and Fellowship. They meet up at different locations all across the U.S. It's a men's group, essentially. You train together. You have a circle of trust. Their whole thing is to kind of combat the male loneliness epidemic and try to reinvigorate community leadership through strong male fitness, essentially. And so I started doing that in January. I've done more run clubs, Tacoma Runners, or Run Club in Ruston every Sunday. So I'm just trying to get the fitness gains alongside the social and networking gains to kind of create this kind of more holistic person. So I've shifted in 2025 more to that. And then in terms of like entrepreneurship traits, I'm trying to wake up a bit earlier. I'm not typically a morning person, but if I can get up around 6 or so, then I can get a little bit more done before the day job starts. So individually, it's about waking up slightly earlier. And then fitness wise, it's about trying to do stuff socially more than just individually.
Yeah, the community aspect is super underrated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you're onto the right track, where, you look at events like the Ironman, or even like the CrossFit hike.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about community, because, I was in a bodybuilding phase for a long time where I just wanted to be super big. And those guys love bodybuilders, love their community, but a lot of them are super lonely.
Yeah. I was just watching Will Tennyson. He's one of my favorite YouTubers video yesterday. And he's about 2 weeks out from his first bodybuilding competition. And that really must be one of the hardest sports there is, because it's so, like you said, it's so isolating, because of so much of our life is revolving around food, really, right? So you can't do anything socially when it comes to going to restaurants if you have to eat egg whites and whatever. broccoli for every meal of the day, right? So it's extremely isolating when you think of how hard you have to push yourself to do it natural as a natural body lift or bodybuilder. So that is one area I don't think I would ever venture down because in wrestling, you had to cut weight and stuff like that. I was cutting weight for wrestling and I was gaining weight for ice hockey as a defenseman, so
Yeah.
it was always this really weird thing. And I think it led to some eating behavior that's not great, like binge eating and stuff like that for sure. Very, very popular, common thing in the wrestling community. So I think that's one of the downsides of it. And then, yeah, if you go really into the body dysmorphia, bodybuilding thing, then that could spiral too. So,
Yeah.
I commend people that do that. I mean, that's got to be one of the harder sports that's out there because it's not just look, it's a whole lifestyle for sure.
It is. And you get weird looks if you bring your own food to a restaurant.
Yeah. Right.
So you figured out this purpose where you were like, I want to start Triumphant. I want to do these challenges. I want to bring this community aspect. How did you figure out what your purpose was?
Yeah, I think I found my purpose through Triumphant just by realizing that I had been really blessed in my life. Like I came from a very stable household, very stable family. Both my parents were in healthcare. Mom was a nurse, dad was a firefighter, paramedic, and so I didn't have, in a weird way, I didn't really have this immense obstacle to overcome, this great barrier, like some kind of traumatic experience that a lot of endurance athletes or people can kind of draw upon. I think I just had, fortunately, a very stable childhood, so I was always trying to think like, because of that, I have to put things onto my plate that are like voluntary discomforts, right? Because I don't have a lot of the discomforts that some people just have by virtue of the way they grew up, or they had a child young and they had to become, adult at the age of 18 or 20 or something like that. My dad had his first kid at 21 and had to kind of grow up very fast. So the way I was raised, maybe just I felt like I needed to add some extra like discomfort into my life to have more meaning, essentially, because like I said, we're living in a comfort crisis and we can take things and Uber, DoorDash our whole life away, right? But I realized that if I didn't take on the voluntary struggle of doing hard things, then I wouldn't be able to look at myself in the mirror and be happy with what I saw. So like I said, I'd always been passionate about fitness, and that's a big thing that I want to maintain throughout my life, and the accountability of maintaining that as well. So I was just trying to think of ways to maintain fitness and then a way to do philanthropy on the side, or mix it in between the two of those things. So when I had the curiosity of the 2024 project of honoring the holidays, I was like, this is a really cool thing that maybe other people would be interested in as well. And I had a couple friends come out in 2024 and film it, and just see some of the community from different groups that aren't even fitness related come out and cheer me on for different events. And I was like, maybe other people would actually want to do this with me. And so I kind of got the purpose from that. But I guess ultimately just wanting to look in the mirror and think that I'd done something for other people other than just myself when it was all said and done.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that you have something that I've actually read a little bit about, but there's a Japanese principle of I'm going to mispronounce this, but Ikigai.
Ikigai. Yes.
Okay.
The art of living kind of thing. The art of living a meaningful life. Yeah.
Okay. And that's how you found yours?
Yeah. There's two different Japanese words. I think the one I've heard first, actually, before Ikigai, is misogi. Have you ever heard of misogi?
I have not. I honestly thought you were going to say Kaizen, because that's a big one right now.
Okay, I might need to look that up too. So I'm going to Japan in September, and I can't be more excited because, like, I love this. I'm not Japanese. I'm actually biracial. My dad is black. My mom is white. I look Asian, but I'm not Asian. So go figure that out. Black dad, mom white, Asian baby. I don't know. But I'm going
the
to
mailman's
Japan.
Asian, but it's okay.
Exactly. There's some story that I'm not privy to. But there's another word. I'll ask you about Kaizen in a second, but the word misogi is the idea that every year you should take on a challenge that you have a 50% chance of succeeding in. It's like a cleansing ceremony, an old Japanese ritual where you would hike over the mountains and do a marathon every day. Like these monks would do these intense things, right? as a way to test their physical virtue and discipline and all these things. And so the idea of a misogi came about, and I've heard about it maybe 10 or so, 15 years ago. Jesse Itzler is an Instagram kind of businessman, and he's a big fan of misogis as well. He's kind of popularized it. But the idea, I think, is a beautiful one, that every year you should do one thing like to define that year. Like in 2024, the defining thing was really, in a lot of ways, starting triumphant. Like, I'm not an entrepreneur in any sense of the world. I've always been a very or risk adverse person. So 2024 was kind of starting this whole process of putting myself out there and learning the ins and outs of networking and talking to people and describing this passion that I have. But the idea is that every year you should pick one thing that you're like, I don't know if this is going to work, but it's at least going to be a great story to tell my grandkids. Like, who knows if I'm going to be, around to tell them the tale, but that'll be awesome if it works out. So I do love that idea. And I've tried to build my life in some semblance around the idea of Mitsogi. But what is Kaizen? Do you have any understanding of that?
I have a little bit of understanding, but I pulled it up just just in case, because I didn't want to butcher it. Kaizen it's a compound of two Japanese words. Together they translate as good change or improvement. So basically it's come to mean continuous improvement.
Oof, yes.
It's got a lot of principles in philosophy and stoicism.
Right.
And it's actually, I don't know if it predates those, but the term has been thrown around a lot recently.
Okay.
So I keep seeing, you're probably going to see it now too, but I keep seeing like this Kaizen journal that everybody's doing and all this other stuff. But it's continuous improvement.
I love that idea. I think one of the biggest, my big philosophies, like you said, was Stoicism. Once I kind of left the church, or I grew up, Christian Presbyterian, and then in my early 20s in college, I kind of fell away, but more agnostic. I like deism, the idea that maybe there's something that started the process off, but there's not necessarily a personal creator. But so for a long time, I've kind of gravitated to virtue ethics, Stoicism, or the idea that the purpose of life is simply progress, like just to progress as an individual, to learn what it's like to live a human experience to the fullest, and to take risks and take challenges. And so I love that idea. I mean, it's a very Japanese concept, I guess, that you just mentioned, Kaizen, of continual progression. So I vibe with that.
Yeah, I always used to have a saying. It was very intense, but this was back when I was in my like hardcore fitness days. But it was like, if you aren't growing, you're dying.
Yes, my there's a strength and conditioning coach in my office next to me, and on his board is written "Equilibrium is death" in big letters. Yep. So very similar to that.
I had a trainer that was always like, maintenance is a myth.
Yeah. What do you think about that now? Do you still vibe with that, or any pushback?
I think there's a difference between maintenance and balance.
Ooh, okay.
I think that people that are like, oh yeah, I'm maintaining. Like when it comes to fitness, I think that you can maintain. Like if you're maintaining your weight, awesome. But that also means that you're going through changes in other avenues. So you used to do, let's just, this is not the secret hack, everybody, but let's just say you did 50 jumping jacks a day to lose 10 pounds, right?
Yep.
You lost the 10 pounds. You went from 180 to 170. But along the way, and you hit 170, and now you're like, I'm going to maintain 170, and I'm maintaining, and I'm in maintenance mode and everything. Eventually, 50 jumping jacks is going to your body's going to get used to it. It's going to adjust, right? It's not going to be enough to maintain that weight.
Right.
So either your weight is going to change, or you have to do more jumping jacks, or something else. And so I believe that you can maintain certain aspects, but like altogether maintenance I still believe it is partially a myth, because you're always changing in something, and you play this teeter-totter game, and that's why I think maintenance is different than balance. You play this teeter-totter game of, you said it earlier, you give it all in your fitness, and you're in the gym 4 or 5 hours, but your relationships suck.
Yeah.
And then you teeter-totter back to, I'm going to focus on my relationships, and your fitness doesn't necessarily suffer, but you maybe learn how to make it more efficient. You learn how to spend less time in the gym, get similar results, and then you're focused on your fitness and your relationships, and your business suffers. And you play this teeter-totter game, and you go through seasons of life, seasons of the year, where in the summer everybody wants to be fit, In the winter, it's like, oh, it's cold out. I don't want to go for a run, all this stuff. And so maybe your relationships are better in the winter because of all the holidays, but your fitness isn't as great. And so I think there's a huge difference between maintenance and balance. I do still think maintenance is somewhat a myth.
Right. Okay. I like your idea there. It's like strategic seesaw of imbalances that, can be for certain stretches of time. I like that. Rather than like 25% in every category. It's like, oh, I'm going to go 70-30 in this during the winter and then 30-70 in the summer of that,
Well, so we talked about Ikigai, right?
Yeah.
And it's got 4 parts. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Okay, so your Ikigai, if you drew like a Venn, I think it's called a Venn diagram, the bubble thing.
Oh, wait, I thought you were talking about Kaizen has 4 parts. Ikigai,
No.
I have. It's like
Ikigai,
profession, purpose, I've
so
seen
you have
a couple.
your profession, your purpose, your passion, and your mission.
Yeah.
Now I don't remember the crossroads, but the other 4 things are what the world needs, what you love to do, what you can make money with, and what you're good at. And so like what you're good at crosses with what the world needs, and that's like your vocation.
Right.
Or your, maybe it was what you love to do, and people can look it up. But anyway, there's 4 parts and everything. Imagine if you totally focused on mission and completely forgot about profession and passion. And like vocation was somewhere in the middle. Like there is a balance. When people find their art of living, and people find what they truly want to do in life, there's a balance that fits all 4.
Yes. 100%. I see what you're saying. Yeah. There's a quote from Naval. He's about like, what looks like hard work to other people, but is play to you. Like that is what you should be pursuing, whatever that business idea is. Because if podcasting for whatever 6 hours a week to other people looks hard, it's something that you're good at, I guess, or whatever. Then that looks like play to you. Just enjoy it, doing 6 hours of editing and all these kind of things. But other people be like, damn, that guy Greg works so hard. You're just like, I don't work hard. I love this. Then that's the thing that you should do, right? So kind of that idea. I like that as well.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. And I think that it's also crazy we're having this conversation because you talked about, what was it, Misogi? Am I saying that right?
Yep, Misogi. Yep.
Okay. I like your idea of every year doing something, having to do with Misogi. Putting yourself kind of in these discomforts. I try to do it every day. However, it doesn't always work out that way. But doing something really big every year. And I actually just got into something yesterday where it's going to be my Misogi, but eventually it could become, or it probably is going to become my Ikigai. So.
Ooh. Is it too early to tell, or do you want to break that to the pod?
Let's break it, because this episode won't come out for a few more weeks. But I've always said since I was 14 or 15, maybe even earlier, my family travels a lot.
Okay.
And I was like, man, I love traveling. If I could get paid to travel, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
And eventually it just became like a joke. Like, I would say it jokingly because people didn't take me seriously. I would be like, oh yeah, like if I could get paid to travel, that'd be awesome. And people are like, oh yeah, like that's the dream. And I'm like, yeah, cool. And then I found the guy. And the guy was really interested in me and was like, dude, I believe you could totally do this. And so I went all in with, I started thinking, my thought process over the last couple of months is I have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Because of where I just came from. And so what's the worst that could happen?
100%.
And so I was like, I'm going all in. I've literally said basically half my life, maybe more than half my life, that if I could learn how to get paid to travel, this is it. And this guy's a college dropout who dropped out of college, a little over a year ago, and now he makes 6 figures traveling the world.
Oh, love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
So it's funny that we're talking about this because I literally I'm putting myself in this uncomfortable situation where it's do or die, but it's also going to become the best thing that's ever happened.
I feel that, man. I feel that. Back against the wall, like, because I do know a little bit of your backstory in terms of where what you said of where you've been, I guess. So I think that is the perfect time to bet on yourself. I'm really, really entertaining that idea in 2026. Because I don't really do the New Year's resolution thing as much, but I do like the idea of like a New Year's phrase or like a word to frame the year. And so 2025 is undeniable. That's the word that I want in a specific thing that I'm doing. I do like a weekly Fitness History Friday spoken word piece that I do on my YouTube channel. So I want to do so many of those videos that it becomes undeniable that there's a cool talent there, I guess. And in 2026, I'm really debating having the word be all in and or burn the boats, where I just like leave the day job and then just focus on Triumph It 24/7. As the only job that I have. So I love that idea because I still, no wife, no kids, like no dogs. Is there going to be a time where I have less risk than this? Like probably not. So like why would I not at least try it now? So that's wild that you're kind of in that same boat there. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, I have a kid, so there's a little bit of like,
Yeah.
but everybody has been super supportive. For the
Yeah.
most part, where they're like, listen, go. He's super young, which I
Yeah.
want to spend as much time as possible with him. But they're like, go live the life, create the life that you want,
Yeah.
and then he could be a part of it when he starts remembering things. And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
exactly,
100%.
But you mentioned spoken word.
Yeah.
Do you have some spoken word to share with us today?
Today. Oh, off the dome. I mean, let me think. I just wrote a piece about Jesse Owens, and I'll put that out Friday. Let me think if I have anything. I could definitely link you to some of my old stuff. Let's think.
I mean, we could always just put it in the show notes.
Yeah,
But
I would 100% put some stuff in the show notes. Yeah. So it started back in college in like 2011, 2012, I would say. I started going to slam poetry events in Denver and just got really inspired by the art form. And I think it was a really cool way to me, like language is a lot of like a puzzle piece of like coming up with the perfect way to phrase something or hot take. If it doesn't rhyme, it's not poetry. Just a hot take right there. So like trying to make it perfectly fit. Not like everything has to rhyme, but if there's no some like internal rhymes somewhere in the thing, it's not poetry. I don't
so
care who
you are
wrote
not a
it.
fan of haikus.
No, like I love Japanese culture, but haikus, like step your game up, people. Like step your game up, okay? So I've always been just fascinated by the puzzle piece of language and that kind of stuff. And so as like another branch of Triumph Fit, it's like fitness, philanthropy, creativity. I always want to be doing like random creative stuff and think of different ways to push the limit there. And so there's been like a recurring Friday piece where I kind of highlight some amazing human achievement or feat of endurance or something. Last week I just did one about this guy Ben Saunders. He did a longest 5-foot march through the polar South Pole, basically. So he went from the shore of Antarctica all the way to the South Pole and back. Something that Scott and Amundsen, like 100 years ago, polar explorers were trying to do, and I don't think Scott succeeded. Scott passed away. He died during the return trip. So Ben Saunders, this crazy British dude, did it. And so I did a whole piece about that. And every week is a different thing like that. And it's really inspired me. I had just written one about Ross Edgley when we first talked a month and a half ago, something like that, about his swim around the island of Britain. And the guy's back at it. He's going to swim around Iceland 1,000 miles. And so I think I'll have to write another piece about him at some point. But it really does inspire me to think about the things that the human body is capable of, and that, as Goggins would say, we always have about 40% left when you think you're done. So I've really enjoyed taking the time to write those every week, and it's been a great endeavor. But 100%, man, I'll throw some stuff in the show notes for you. And
awesome.
That'd be great.
Not for me, it's for everybody else too.
That's right. Get inspired through the written word.
So you said you got into the spoken word and written word in college?
Yeah, in college. Okay. Yeah.
What kind of doors does that open for you?
Yeah. So that's been a cool one. I would say my writing has allowed me. Well, the biggest thing, I guess, financially was I got a scholarship, a $5,000 scholarship in grad school for a piece that I wrote. That was about. It was kind of looking as morbid in a sense. It was looking about. We were doing a like a module about geriatric health and how to rehab elderly patients. And so the thing we had to write about was like, how do we want our after or end of life care to go, and
Yeah.
what is the process for that and everything, right? So you see a lot of patients, what is their dying wish and their biggest regrets and stuff like that. And so I wrote a piece about what I want kind of for my funeral and all these things, and winning a scholarship for that. So that was really cool, an extra $5,000. But I do remember also in high school, I think the first time I got like props for anything I did in writing was freshman year. We were doing a piece about Holocaust survivors, and we essentially like had to read a big biopic about people that had survived and then write something about them. And I wrote this piece about I think his name was Fritz, and he survived Dachau, not Auschwitz, but Dachau, another concentration camp. And then they put that piece like on the museum like wall or something, and I was like, whoa, I'm in ninth grade, like this is crazy, like what's happening. And so then I just remember that as being like the first time, like, maybe there's some talent here that I could work on. And then it wasn't really until undergrad where I went to some spoken word poetry events, and I was like, oh, that's a cool open mic kind of atmosphere. And I would say currently it's helped me because I do probably at least 3, 4, 5 times a year open mics where I present some original piece, and that's really helped in terms of public speaking. So if there's any skill you can acquire outside of the four walls of a university or school, it's probably marketing of some kind, sales, or public speaking. Because if you can combine public speaking with whatever other passion you have, you can state your message, and you're not going to get clammy, and you're not going to be nervous and forget all your lines and stuff like that. So going to open mics now with the poetry has really opened my eyes to like, I can stand in front of an audience and I can deliver a speech that's very vulnerable and do a rhyme scheme through the whole thing. So I would say it's had tangential benefits in just the ability to orate to an audience, which is cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, public speaking is definitely it's an underrated skill.
It's like literally the number one fear of all humans. Like it's literally 1 or 2. It's crazy how
It's number
everyone fears. Yeah, I think it's number 1.
It's
That's
above
incredible.
death.
It's insane to me. Like just speaking to people is scarier than death. You're like, I don't quite understand evolutionarily like how it's that. I don't know like why it's that.
Jerry Seinfeld once said, he's like, people are more afraid of public speaking than they are of death, which means that if you're at a funeral, people would rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's wild. I have a friend at a funeral right now. That's crazy. Yeah. So I'm not sure. It must, I don't know. I've always been more introverted, so it's not something that came naturally to me, but I could definitely state that it is a skill. Like you mentioned, like you can get better at these things, and you can learn tactics to, calm your breathing down and calm your heart rate down and still deliver, an appropriate speech at the right time. So that's a nice skill to have.
Now, you mentioned being an introvert. I've actually noticed myself, I used to be an extrovert, but the more and more I learn about communication, the more introverted I've become.
Ooh. I never hear people go the other way. I hear a lot of introverts maybe going more into, because the world forces extroversion on a lot of people, like through the workforce, right? Through office work and stuff like that. But I don't hear many people going from extroversion to introvert. You're interesting.
Well, and the reason behind it is because there's a lot of power in silence.
I would agree.
And I used to be an extrovert. However, I was not an empath.
Okay.
So I loved talking and I loved socializing, but I was a horrible listener.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's exactly becoming an introvert, but I learned to shut up.
Yeah.
And what I do say, because of communication, has become better and more well put.
I love that idea. I think that took a lot of stress off of me at a certain stage when I realized, like, I don't need to be the most interesting person, have the most charisma in every room that I go to. Literally, there's a good quote from Sahil Bloom about it's better to be interested than interesting. So as long as you're actively listening, asking appropriate open-ended questions to people, they're going to come out of that interaction thinking that you're the best conversationalist on the planet, because people love talking about themselves. Guess what? Right? So So as long as you're asking appropriate questions and they're just talking, they're going to think more highly of your intelligence and everything there than just if you dominate the conversation by talking for an hour and a half. So I think what you're doing with the podcast and something that I've done with a podcast in the past really did teach me the benefit of, sitting back, listening, asking appropriate questions, open-ended questions, and just being curious about everyone. Because I think there's, an interesting story or a lesson that we can learn from every single human for sure.
Yeah. And your podcast, I have it here, but your podcast was about the best way to talk to a stranger.
Yep.
And communication
100%.
and all that. So what is the best way?
Yeah. Like I said, be interested in what they're saying. Listen and be
Yeah.
interested. You don't have to think about, there's so many like little hacks that you can do that I used to know. It was like, repeat the last 3 words that they said, like slowly. And then they'll just like want to elaborate more. If you just say, in your podcast, like if you just say that slowly, they're going to want to continue the conversation. So there's things like that, but you don't even have to remember all of those things. You just have to remember to be present. It's just literally about being mindful and present and listen to what they're saying, actually, not just thinking about what you're going to say next. And so the whole Tyler Talks to Strangers was a thing I did, a project I did, off and on in spring breaks, summer breaks when I was in grad school. And I would just walk down to the beach or to a park, famous park or something. And I would literally walk up to people and say, my name's Tyler. I'm trying to start this podcast called Tyler Talks to Strangers. I do 10-minute interviews with random people that I meet. I ask, would you rather questions, fun questions, and deep questions. Can I talk to you or whatever? And then they'd be like, sure, let's do it. And so you'd be kind of amazed the secrets that a stranger will tell you within 2 minutes of knowing them. Like, I would ask fun questions like, who would you call to hide a body or something? And they'll just tell you all the things. They're like, oh, I've done that before. You're like, what? I should probably leave. This is sketch. But you'll learn a lot of really interesting things, people's greatest fears, regrets, things they wish they would have said to their mother before they passed away. Like it was a really interesting experiment and project. I always kind of wanted to get to 1,000 episodes. And I just had so many other things that I definitely have shiny object syndrome in a lot of ways. So I haven't continued it on, but I have other, podcasts with, old classmates and stuff like that. So I did take a lot of, joy out of doing that. But it's fun to think of life as different experiments and projects and a continual progression towards becoming better. That's always the way I look at it.
Yeah. There's that Kaizen again.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to be careful with that shiny object syndrome because I've had it too. I still have it sometimes. And I think that's where your 2026 word comes in of all in. Because as in the entrepreneurship world, if you have shiny object syndrome, you will get good at a lot of things, but not great at any.
Amen to that. That is super true. I know. And there's so many things to know and learn. And I fully agree though. Yes, entrepreneurship is the ability to eat glass for like years at a time until something good happens, So I think you do need to stack the time, and you can't be diverting off the path too long before ultimately you're not going to have anything. So I think, which is why I'm still full on for Triumphant, because like I don't foresee a future where I'm not interested in fitness. I that's not possible because fitness to me is so much now. It used to be vanity and all these things, but now it's just my mental health. Like I'm just a better person when I work out. And so I don't foresee a future where fitness isn't in that picture somewhere. And then if I'm doing fitness and I can make it social, I mean, that's 2 birds with 1 stone. So I don't think Triumphant's going anywhere. Like I think I mentioned this to you in the past. Like I've already like signed the contract with myself that I'm doing this for the next 7 years until I'm 40, and then I could reevaluate like what's working, not working. But I cannot stop Triumphant until I'm 40 years old, which is in 7 years. So that's the timeline I need to think about it.
I think fitness should never leave your life.
Yeah,
it just changes. It just molds over time because everyone has that vanity stage of fitness. Is I want a 6-pack, or I want to lose the weight, or I want to fit in my old high school clothes, or be able to do what I did in college. And everybody kind of has that phase where they're trying to prove either someone else or they're prove to themselves that they can achieve a look or a feel. But then you kind of over time it molds and it grows into sustainability and longevity and not getting injured or not spending 4 hours in the gym. And so
that was a sprint at a certain point in my life, but I don't I do a track workout with some of the guys on base here, and there's one that always kind of keeps asking me like, "Oh, when are you going to go back to that sub 5 minute project?" And I'm just like, I hit a 5:05 mile. Like I know how hard I had to work to get to that. Like I have no desire to, at least in the near future, to train that hard to do a 5 minute mile. Like it's the juice isn't worth the squeeze to knock off 6 seconds. Like I don't really think it's worth it. But I don't know. He's always kind of ribbing me about it. I'm like, nah, I'm just doing it just to stay healthy. And like I love being out here with you guys and training, but I don't need to take it to that nth degree. I'm not an Olympian. I'm not. My livelihood doesn't depend on this as a professional athlete. So. But it is kind of funny to think like some people get so locked in, for certain things, and it depends on how you go about achieving it. Some people can do it well and balance, like you said, but other times you neglect some more important obligations to chase
Yeah.
that sub 3 marathon or whatever it is, right? So, I just wanted to find a new way, and I've really enjoyed. I think my fitness has fallen off a little bit, but it was so indexed before that I'm like, if I went from a 98 to a 91 and now have all these other points in these other areas, like, is that a net loss? No, it's a great benefit.
Yeah. Now, going through fitness, going through everything we've talked about, basically,
Yeah.
finding your purpose, spoken word.
Mhm.
What is the most memorable part of your journey so far?
Mm.
Mm.
Hmm.
Mm.
I hope
I
that
hope that
I hope the future is just way more memorable than my past, to be honest. Like I'm always thinking about, because like I said, I'm really, really driven by the vision of like Triumphit being synonymous with the Murph Challenge or something. Like that's the level that I want this to be on. So I
so.
think I am more motivated by the future of what it could be versus like what I've already done. Like I
Yeah.
understand like it's great to not, never like the arrival fallacy of I'll be happy when XYZ happens in the
Yeah.
future. When Triumphant has 200 participants, when Triumphant has 1,000 whatever, like arbitrary number that is, right? Like I'm trying to be happy along this whole journey of entrepreneurship because I'm becoming every day in this thing and I'm learning more about myself. So I want to avoid the arrival fallacy during this whole process. But yeah, there's nothing, at least in Triumph, that I'm like I would be super glad that. I mean, I've seen it in small ways, like with the Cesar Chavez event that I just had, where like maybe 20 people came out, and I was like, okay, this is cool. Like this is one person last year, just me, and now there's
Yeah.
20 people out here supporting me, so that was kind of nice. But um, if you're talking about just like a peak life experience that I've had fitness related, it's probably doing the full Ironman triathlon is in 2021 when I did that. I think that is kind of cool. That everyone should have something like that, where essentially they dedicate their life to do something that they never thought maybe they could do, or it was essentially a fulfilled promise to my 19-year-old self when I saw on TV these guys competing in the Kona, Hawaii World Championships for the Ironman, and I was literally 19 years old, and I was like, I would love to do an Ironman one day.
Yeah.
And then when I was 29, I had a classmate that also had that ambition, and he texted me like around January, around the new year of 2021. He's like, "So this is the year we do it?" And I was like, "Oh damn!" Like I was looking for something to do this year. I guess this is the project. Like
Yeah.
that had to happen. And so then, I trained for the next 8 months to do it. And you get to that red carpet. They announce your name, Tyler Smith. You are an Ironman, and you think of all the sweat and all the tears and how long you had to train to do this thing and the sacrifices. So there's that paradox again of like I don't through Triumphant, like I'm not saying don't do races. I'm not saying don't have ambition or discipline. Like I'm just saying I don't think that should be the entirety of your fitness life. Like there should be, go do your local 5K charity run, or like give back in other ways, volunteer at AIDS walks and stuff like that. Like, and what I'm trying to do through Triumphant is donate a lot of the proceeds to these organizations. So I did a 5K today for the Pearl Foundation. So like I went and busted my ass as hard as I could. So I still do things like that, but I don't think I would be as fulfilled if I was just kind of that lone wolf mentality of just going to go do all these individual races and not like
Yeah.
help other people to see past their own limitations and have the giving back aspect as well. So I think you can do both. I honestly think you can still sign up for Spartan races and have these fun experiences, but I think you should be willing to be uncomfortable philanthropically as much as you are, fitness wise, and
Yeah.
give back to people that need it as well. So do it all if you can. That's what I would tell my younger self. Is like, you could have started Triumph Fit way earlier, done it alongside all the other stuff that you did. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have an interesting story that I haven't touched on yet, but
Mm.
you talked about philanthropic, um, kind of you're donating the proceeds and all this other stuff.
Mm.
But I want to hear about the RV
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what that taught you about money.
100%. Yeah. So I got really interested in van life and travel trailers and all that kind of stuff in undergrad when I was at University of Denver. I think a lot of it was sparked by seeing the documentary Free Solo. Alex
Oh, it's a
Honnold.
great one.
Yeah, it's amazing. Dude lives in a van and then he just climbs mountains with no ropes.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's kind of badass, right? So I was like, oh, dude, that dude's living in a van. That's super cool. Like, I would love to put my stoicism and my minimalism to the test. Like, how many possessions do I really need to be happy? That kind of thing. So I was, early 20s. And then a part of healthcare that you can do as a physical therapist is like travel nursing. There's travel physical therapists where you do 3-month contracts around the country, and then can kind of stack up as many of those and take as much time off between contracts that you want. So there was another blog, I think it was called Healthcare Workers on Fire, Financial Independence, Retire Early. There's Jared Kazaza. He had a blog, basically. He was like 3 or 4 years ahead of me. And him and his wife were traveling all the country, essentially in their RV and doing travel PT. And so I was like, when I get out of school, that's for sure what I want to do. And so I bought a truck and a travel trailer and went up to Northern California, worked for about 4 months, took time off after that contract and did some wildland firefighting, which was kind of cool because my dad is a firefighter. So I've always kind of been interested in that world as well. And then I moved the RV up to Washington to work with the military where I'm working now. So, and then in October, I moved out because the winters were kind of tough in Washington with the RV. So, but I did it for about 2 years, and it did teach me a lot about saving money. I lived off of what was I living off of? I mean, I could have lived off probably like $1,500 to $2,000 a month because my RV spot was like $500, and food was probably another like $600-700. So yeah, it was probably like my expenses were extremely low, and as a physical therapist, I had enough money to put towards whatever I wanted to, other travel and international stuff as well, to see friends and stuff. So I think it helped me pare down possessions and think about what was really kind of necessary in life, and not just become so consumer driven like most of America is, and that kind of thing. So it was a great time in my life. I still have it. But part of the 2026 all in, I think, is sell the truck, sell the RV, and put that money in towards just Triumphant, or maintaining the runway to kind of get Triumphant off the ground fully. So we'll see if I can put that to use there. So
well, listen, I'm looking to become a travel creator. So if you got a good deal for me on that RV, I might be interested.
Yeah, we'll talk after, man. It's a nice 2019. It's no like swoopy graphics. It's pretty modern looking. So I'll shoot you the photos of that. But that'd be hilarious if you're looking for something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because where are you located? I forget.
I'm in Chicago.
Chicago. Okay.
But,
very cool.
I mean, this travel stuff pans out, I'll be all over. So
yes, that's true. That is true. I've thought, like, in a lot of ways, like maybe if I could do anything and be paid for it, the ultimate move would be like have a Sprinter van, like a really dope Sprinter van, travel the US, all the continental US, and do Spartan races, and then have like a podcast studio in the Sprinter van, and just do podcasts and do Spartan races to maintain my health, and just like perpetually travel and do races. And that would be really a cool way to see the country. Yeah.
That would be that. Yeah. Sounds like pretty much the dream.
Yeah, it's pretty much the dream. Yeah. Just meet people, work out all the time, like go see all the national parks, have a podcast, like digital nomad in a lot of ways. Yeah, I think that is kind of the dream for sure.
I've been on this quest. I went to Yellowstone for the first time when I was 12, 13.
Okay.
I was 13. Yellowstone for the first time. And ever since then, I've been on this quest. There's 63 national parks. I'm trying to hit all 63 before I turn 63.
Oh, I like the age limitation. That's clean right there. See, that's cool. That's what I like about Triumphant too, is like everything. There's always like some like tie-in or like alliteration behind like the phrasing, I guess. I had an idea to make like a competition initially was another triumphant idea of like every month is a different competition that drops, and it's almost like a puzzle. Like I was really interested in the idea of creating a mix up of a escape room and like gym culture, where it was like a gym escape room where like you're
Yeah.
having to solve puzzles and like solve things in the room or do physical tasks to do that. And so I like the idea of like writing all these like cryptic messages and having the participants to try and like solve them and to figure out what the fitness challenge was. So yeah, I love that idea of like thinking about intentionally the 63 and 63. That is cool. I like that.
Yeah.
How many are you at right now?
I am at 19,
Okay, 19.
and I got a cool little water bottle where you can put stickers on every time you go to one.
Wait, I have this water bottle. I have that same one. I can go grab it right now. It's hilarious.
Mine's
My
right,
mom.
like literally right next to me.
All right, let's go grab our water bottles.
All right.
That's so funny.
Oh my gosh, we have the exact same water
We
bottle,
have the
everybody.
exact same bottle, dude. That's awesome. And I haven't put my stickers on it, but I've probably been to like 7, I want to say, probably under 10. Yeah, it's not that many.
Yeah, I'm on that's my mission.
That
So
is cool.
I have to get to at least 2 for a long time a year. So,
Yeah,
but
dude, I
a
think you
lot of
can do it.
a
I
lot
think
of
you can do
times
it.
like they're grouped. Problem is I'm
Yeah,
in the Midwest, and the Midwest
yeah.
does not have a lot of them.
Yes, you got to be out west, man. Cascades, Washington, Olympic National Park. Yeah, this is the
Yep.
spot to be.
I'm
That's
going to
why
Washington.
I can't go west of like Miss. Chicago's not east of the Mississippi though, is it?
Yeah.
No, it is. Okay, I was gonna say yeah. There's just too much wide open space in the west. Like I don't. I could travel to the east to visit, but I couldn't live there. I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're going to get there. We're going to get to 63. I
Yeah.
also had a quest at one point, and I might still be on this, is the 7 wonders of the world before I turn 70.
Damn. Okay, another time bound. I like this thing, dude. That's the new favorite question I'm gonna start asking people. Is like, what is your current side quest? I think that's like an amazing question to ask people. Like, hopefully they understand what you mean by that. But I think that's just funny. Like, we're all like thinking of life as a video game is really cool to me. I don't know. It's just like you can't respond. That's kind of sad if you die. But like, other than that, like, I don't know. Just go do random things. It's kind of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, there used to be this, I used to have it, somebody sold it. It was a digital like spreadsheet basically, but it was a daily planner, and you entered your stuff in, and at the end of every day you'd go in and say if you completed stuff, but it had like XP, like you could earn XP and do like these side quests and put this stuff into your days and your weeks, and if you went and completed it, it would give you XP and you'd level up. And,
Was that called Habitica? Do
I
you
think
remember?
so. I don't
'Cause
remember.
I think I briefly like did a game like that where it was like a self-development thing. It was called Habitica, and you would do all your challenges, and then you could get because I played like MMORPG whatever games, like World of Warcraft. I played a game called Tibia, and it was like that. But it was like that, but with discipline habits. I was like, that's a pretty cool idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, let's get back to fitness a little bit.
Yeah.
This one was interesting too. Consistency versus intensity.
Yeah. You want me to just
What's
go
your
off
opinion on that?
Yeah, I think that so many people hate fitness, specifically hate running, because they go out and run zone 5 every freaking day. And they like how are they going to enjoy that if you go out and burn your jets on every single run, fly or die mentality,
For those who don't know, what is zone 5?
Zone 5 would be like extremely high heart rate. So the heart rate zones would be typically 1 through 5, and 5 is essentially like on the borderline of sprinting, So you're supposed to do 80% of your work when you're training for something in zone 1 or 2, zone 2. And so a lot of people are just training too hard, and they don't like training because of that fact. And unless you're doing it like CrossFit works because like you have that community aspect of people pushing you. So sometimes it's a little bit easier to go harder on those days because you have other people in there, trying to cheer you on, that kind of thing. But if you're just doing solo endeavors, you're not going to succeed very long doing every single workout in zone 5 and killing yourself. So I always tell patients when they're rebuilding a fitness habit or something like that, or coming off of injury from rehab, that you really want to focus on consistency trumping intensity always. The kind of 4 pillars that I have for that is attention trumps inattention towards the fitness task or goal. So you have to know, what's happening. You have to be aware of it. And then I would say motivation trumps attention, because, you can get some kind of, spark to do something harder if you have the motivation to do it. It's very short lasting. So I'd say discipline trumps motivation, because now it's more of an internally focused on identification thing if you read Atomic Habits. But then I think what trumps discipline in a lot of ways is accountability. And so that's telling other people about it or posting about it socially in some respect. And so my challenge for that has been a 1,000 days of sprint, high intensity interval training. So it's kind of on that the consistency intensity spectrum. It's very intense, but it's really only for 1 minute a day. So it's 3 20-second all out intervals with 2 minutes of rest in between each of those. And I'm trying to do that consistently for 1,000 days in a row. And so I'm at 186 right now. And I'm posting about it on my Instagram Triumphant Challenge. So I think having that accountability is better than discipline in a sense, because even with a very disciplined mind, you can still let yourself off the hook for a certain challenge that you're doing. Like, oh, yeah, I'm a disciplined person, but I literally have norovirus and I'm really sick right now. So I don't lose any discipline points by not doing my challenge because I have a flu right now. It is what it is, right? Sorry, Tyler. Like, I guess we'll start over, versus accountability. This will be interesting. Talk to me when I actually get sick, right? Because I haven't been sick yet, but once I do, let's say I do get the flu and I don't want to do my interval sprint, whatever that day, that'll be the really true test of if accountability is better than discipline. Because if I'm at day 999 and I have 1 to go, I don't care how sick I am, I'm gonna find a way to do that challenge, that sprint thing, right? So the way I've done it is you can do it any modality you want. You can do biking, cycling, sprinting, treadmill sprints. You could do assault bike. You can do an echo bike or row. You could do a skier, whatever you want, as long as it's 20 seconds all out. So that's how I defined it. So you can define it however you want. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of test out. I think I'm very intrigued by streaks and people that do things. That was a part of our last conversation. People that can take on that kind of robotic mode. That'll be the poem that I put for the listeners. It's a poem that I wrote when I hit day 100. I think it was 100 or 150 of my challenge. And is the idea of humans becoming algorithms of discipline and becoming kind of more machine-like the longer you do something. And what is that line between man and mechanism and all those kind of things. So so that was what the poem was written about. And yeah, I think that accountability publicly to my whatever social profiles has been good. So we'll see how the challenge progresses. I'll be done sometime in 2027. So we'll do a new podcast around that.
There you go. I like the pillars, because I do think that no matter how disciplined somebody is, there are going to be days where you're like, who's going to know if I don't do it?
Yeah. No one else is going to know. Yeah.
Exactly. And having another person or a group or just kind of that, even if it's, nobody real, like nobody, it doesn't have to be a real person. But if people know, like, one of my accountability things that I've been working on is getting over my perfectionism. So I post at least three social media videos a day, whereas I used to post one every other day or one every 3 days. So now I'm just like, let's get 3 out. And I told a friend about it. And if 8 or 9 p.m. comes around and I only have 1 or 2 up, he's texting. He's like, hey, where's the third one?
Damn, I love this friend. This is a good relationship you have. Yeah, this is a good relationship you have. That's really
cool. I like the pillars because, first of all, discipline trumps motivation every single day of the week.
Yeah.
Accountability, it definitely plays a huge aspect, and that's why CrossFit has been so successful.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
I agree.
Because there are days when people who work out alone,
Yeah.
bodybuilders know this, people who work out alone know this, people who just go to the gym and do cardio know this. There are days where you're like, I don't want to go.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in a CrossFit community and you have a day where you don't want to go and you text your buddy and you're like, hey, I'm not feeling it today, he's going to be like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're not feeling it?
Right. 100%. I would fully agree. That's probably a large part of their success. Yeah. And then once you do the thing, you always feel so like I've never regretted a workout, right? So then you always feel more accomplished for having done the thing. And so then you get the endorphin rush and the community aspect. Yeah, they've perfected that thing for
They
sure.
figured it
If
out.
they could just perfect people not dying at their events and drowning, that would be also a great CrossFit. They had somebody actually die, I think, last year. That was crazy. So there's some things with CrossFit I don't agree with, the kipping pull-ups, whatever. But everyone's got their gripes about it. But as a physio, I'm like, yeah, we should just stop kipping. Don't do kipping pull-ups, guys.
I've had to learn how to kip to learn. I'm learning how to muscle up.
Okay, yeah.
And going from years and years and years of your pull-ups have to be strict and you have to feel your lats to now you're like, okay, I got to use my momentum. It's like, what?
Can we use 0% body activate, like muscle activation during a pull-up? Is that possible? Because that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, exactly.
Now I have a question for you that actually this has been one of my, I don't know if we talked about this, but I have a personal trainer background.
Okay.
I was a trainer for years, nutrition coach, all that. I dabbled in corrective exercise, so kind of a physical therapist, but not really. Dabbled in strength conditioning, dabbled in bodybuilding coaching, all that other stuff. But what is your opinion on when people get injured or when people can no longer be at 100% of where they were? What is your opinion on them completely stopping ever?
Oh, that's a horrible idea. I think it's malpractice at this point to kind of promote bed rest and that kind of thing for a significant amount of time, even after like acute ankle injury. Let's say you rolled your ankle down the street or something like that. The first things you want to do is just get some light mobility work in there, some light weight bearing kind of things, input into the joint to get proprioception and things like that back. So telling somebody to completely ice, rest, and elevate is really not the most advisable strategy now. And that's kind of an old school orthopedic surgeon physician mentality too. My brother's a sports med doc, and I think that's probably just very common in that world too, of like, have XY procedure. Doctor tells you you're never going to run again. And then cue the motivational music and YouTube video, and then they're running again a marathon or something because they wanted to prove to the doctor that I can run again. So I don't know why all these people tell people not to do these things, because there's always a smarter way usually to get back on the horse and to do it in a progressive way. Ben Patrick, the knees over toes guys on YouTube, he's kind of very good at like the regressions of people with specifically knee pain and getting them back to doing jumping and high impact activities. So I think a lot of it is laziness when you just tell somebody not to do anything ever again. I mean, I think that's ultimately to their cardiometabolic detriment, and there's so many other aspects of health. And there's got to be some movement related thing that you can do. I don't care if it's Pilates, I don't care if it's hot yoga, I don't care if it doesn't have to be intense as CrossFit or anything, or running. It could be swimming, cycling, tennis, racquetball, all these things, paddleball. That I think there's always going to be a benefit to moving your body in some aspects. So yeah, telling people not to do anything based on a prior injury is not my speed as a physical therapist.
Well, I agree. I got into a couple fights with different doctors about it, but that's in the past, and maybe things have changed by now in the gym setting. But I actually had a client get a knee surgery, and they're like, I can't do legs for like a year, and I was like, what are you talking about?
Right. No, there's always ways that you can. I mean, knee extensions or quad sets or just even like light contraction of the muscle is not going to do anything bad to the surgical healing rate, right? So there's a lot of overprotection, which again makes sense if you have a professional license like a physical therapist or a surgeon or something like that, and you say the wrong thing, the patient misinterprets it and does too much, they could potentially sue you. So there's malpractice and things that are kind of causing the overprotection. But if there's a critique of physical therapy as a broad field, I would say that typically people don't get better when they go see a physio because the physio is too afraid to load the patient appropriately. They by and large are underloading the people to get to the goals that their patient has for themselves. And so if you kind of took that fear aspect out of it, or specifically with stuff like deadlifting, right? Nobody, or after like maybe age 30 or 40, they're like, I'm never going to deadlift again. And it's, one of those functional movement patterns that you do whether you notice it or not. So you might as well train how to do a deadlift because you're going to do it the rest of your life. So there's just a lot of fear, especially even around the words that we use. And you learn that in school too, about saying things like bone on bone to your patient, right? And then they think that there's nothing they can possibly do for their knee health, and they need surgery kind of immediately. But the more you learn about the rabbit hole of treating the man, not the scan. If you have people took 100 people off the street, did x-rays of their spines. Even people in their 20s and 30s are going to have some degenerative disc disease and things like that. Things that sound very scary, but in clinical examination, they have no abnormality or pain or anything like that, even though their x-ray might show horrible degeneration, right? So pain is a very subjective thing, which is frustrating about physical therapy in a lot of ways, is that you can do the same thing. It could be the best tailored approach, but two people might respond very drastically differently to the plan of care. So for all the reasons that I'm proud to be a physical therapist, I think it is just kind of frustrating in a lot of ways because of how malleable the pain of subjective pain experience is.
Well, that's part of the reason I moved away from fitness a lot. In coaching, I'm still certified. I'm still certified trainer. I got recertified and everything. Still certified nutrition coach. Got recertified and all that because I just like having certification. But I can help you. However, you talked about the words and everything. I've worked with a lot of trainers, and I fell victim to this too, where you are afraid to say something because when you take the personal trainer exam, I would say about 20 or 30% of the questions, there's 4 options, and the 4th option is this is outside my scope of practice, and that's the answer every single time. Because it's talking about things that we are told to recommend go see a doctor or recommend go see a physical therapist. As a trainer, you're not really licensed to give advice on an injury or give advice on hormones or blood levels or cholesterol, stuff like that. And so a lot of the times trainers, and like I said, when I first started, I was afraid to say these things to people. And so I gave people what they wanted, said what they wanted to hear. And then as I matured, I started saying what people needed to hear. Not all the time, but most of the time I started saying what people needed to hear, but they didn't want to hear it. And so I was getting better results for people, but it came at the cost of not my credibility, but my almost trust. And because of that, I was like, man, fitness, people come in, and I can't tell you how many times, it's probably over 100, where somebody came in and said, I want to lose 30 pounds and I have a wedding to go to in 50 days. And I'm like, what? And I told, at first I'd be like, oh yeah, we can do that. Yes, we're going to do it. Towards the end, I was like, listen, we can do that, but you're going to hate me. I'm going to become your worst enemy. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, and I would lay it out exactly how we're going to do it. I'm like, 30 pounds in 50 days, we can do it. It's been done before. But then I would lay it out and they're like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, okay, awesome.
Good.
So you want to start over? Like, let's do something else. But I totally get what you're saying. And I think that, you mentioned earlier, the comfort of society, the people are adverse to risk. People are adverse to pain. People are adverse to struggle, which is why I asked you earlier, but I ask a lot of people I talk to on the show is, what are some of the struggles you went through in life? What are some of the pains you went through in life? What are some of the things that you've learned? Which leads me actually into the theme of the show, the last question. What is something, a lesson or a experience or whatever, that you wish you would have learned earlier in life?
I think I wish I would have learned the benefit of embracing rejection. I think we try to protect our ego through so much of our lives, and whether it's just wanted to have this kind of, like you said, perfectionist mindset, and I don't want to put not anything that's not absolutely my best into the world, but a lot of times to find what your best is, you need to start with a rough draft, obviously, and sometimes you're building that rough draft through the public eye. And that's some of the best advice that I've gotten, is that to treat your life, your entire life, like a rough draft, and to kind of put your ego aside, because we're all just trying to figure it out at the end of the day. Nobody has any of this really figured out completely. So when I've kind of taken on more of the entrepreneurship path, I've just realized the freeing and liberation that comes with just embracing rejection, and being curious about when people do say no. If there is a podcast I just listened to, is the My First Million podcast, and they had a guest on that was, every time he hears a no, his first thought is, I probably just didn't ask the right question. Like he takes it as not a challenge to be like, I'm gonna really like convince this person that they have to say yes, but just like, did I phrase that question wrong, or like, is there
Yeah.
what would it take to get to a yes? Like, let's think creatively here, right? And kind of not just stopping at that first wall, but like trying to see if there's a way easily to navigate around it. But yeah, I've always kind of held myself back in that regard, and even with stuff like dating and relationships, like by and large, some of the advice that I really do hate is that just be yourself, just live your life, improve yourself, and everything will take care of itself. I call bullshit. Unless you look like Brad Pitt, you can't be a guy just going to the gym, just living your life, and then girls just fall into your lap. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, unless you're just a 10 out of 10 model dude. Like, you guys have to initiate the whole process. That's kind of how this works. We have to put ourselves on the limb to see if we're going to get the yes or no from the female. So in 2025, as like a challenge to myself in the relationship sphere, I got off all the dating apps, like all the Hinge and Bumble and all the bullshit that I had been doing. The easy way of on-demand dating, the Uber Eats, the Uber of dating. And I was like, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it the old school way. I would make my grandfather proud that he's like, Tyler, you did that. And so then I was like, okay, I had a thing, like I had a buddy, like you just said, like where I had to text him a girl's number that I got, or like a Instagram or something, that I've a network or approach that I made, and I put myself on the line to like ask a girl out at least once a week, every week, from the beginning of the year. And if I didn't text him a number by Sunday, then I had to take cold showers for 5 minutes every day that week.
Yeah.
And so that was my accountability thing. And so I've been talking to somebody for like a month because of it now, because I put myself out there. And she initially rejected me, and then she realized next time she saw me, she's like, I really regret saying that. And she talked to her friends, and she's like, next time I see him, I'm gonna apologize. And so then she came up to me the next time at the gym, and then we started talking after that. That's the whole thing. But I think I wouldn't have made that initial approach had I not had that goal of like seeing rejection as just a process of growth and something that we're all doing, or that seeing that failure is just the most information rich feedback you can get in life. Every time you fail, that is just feedback. It is not a sign that you're an intrinsically weaker human, or that you're a bad person or something. It's just, it is literally just feedback. Every time you fail forward, right? Fail quickly, those kind of things, right? So I think I wish I would have learned that in the school system, we're always prioritizing getting the A. Whether that means cheating on the test, learning nothing, and getting the A, you still got the A. Great for you, right? But I would rather that we just prioritize like risk taking. And in the US, we do this more than in European countries by and large, because there's a bigger entrepreneurial spirit in America, because all of our ancestors came across the Atlantic to go start this crazy ass colony in 1600, right? So we're kind of bred from that lineage of people, which are more risk taking. But I think we can kind of get very trapped in our scholastic mindset of, I just need to get the A no matter what it is, and I don't want to try to write a different, like, I'm just going to write to what the teacher knows that they like, so then I'll get the A, versus like, I want to put my actual opinion in this essay because that's what I think is going to be the best, right? We just write to the test or whatever, teach to the test kind of thing. So a long way to say, I wish that we really prioritized rejection and failure way more than we currently do. Another podcast that I really like is the Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett. Have you heard of that
Yeah.
guy?
Yeah.
He's blowing up. He's got like 10 million people on his YouTube subscribers. And I did a YouTube video of the behind the scenes of the Diary of the CEO. And he actually has an award that he gives out to the employee of the week who failed the most, who tried the most things to promote the company or to do different systems to make certain things work better. And he gives them an award, whoever failed the most that week. And I just think that's the kind of trophy that we need. We don't need participation awards for the millennials anymore. I'm a millennial. We need trophies for failing quickly, early, putting your heart on the line, like trying stuff, And so if I could have embraced that mindset from when I was in my early 20s versus early 30s, then I don't know how far down the line I would be right now, but it would be a lot farther potentially. So who knows?
And that's amazing stuff, because I do agree with you. I do think that if we embraced rejection, if we embraced failure, and I've read a lot of self-help books, and a lot of the recent ones are kind of the opposite of the whole mindset of the past, where they are talking about like rejection and failure, and they're like, you should try to fail. And I was thinking about that. It's funny, like everything you're talking about, I was thinking about earlier today.
Okay.
I was literally, having that. Everybody has it. It's impossible to not have it. Having that buyer's remorse of buying into this travel creator stuff. And I was like, I have a young son, and I'm like, as a parent, if I go and try this travel stuff and I fail, if my son went and tried something that he really wanted to do and he failed, I'd be more proud of him if he, than if he didn't try it all.
Yeah.
And I think that the generation that came before us never had that.
Yeah. I think
the generation that came before us loves stability.
Right.
Loves security. Now there are, outliers in there that have embraced the risk and have embraced it, everything else. But it's funny that you're mentioning all this stuff. And actually, the female thing and, fitness, we talk about this. I try to read a book a week, like Bill Gates. And one of the books that I read recently it's called Rejection Proof.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And this guy, he went out on this quest he had this massive fear of rejection. And so he went on this quest for 100 days. He's going to do things, very simple things, like go into a McDonald's and order a burger, and then walk up after you finish the burger and ask for a burger refill. Something like that. Or one of the ones was he showed up at some random guy's house wearing soccer cleats and with a soccer ball and said, "Can I play soccer in your backyard?"
I love it. Yeah.
And you should definitely read the book, because I read the book and I was like, okay, cool. And I read it a couple weeks ago, and then the other day I was in the gym in the morning, and I saw somebody doing exercise, and they were having trouble setting it up.
Yeah.
And years ago, it's a girly exercise, but years ago a girl gave me advice on it, so I went over, which I would never do, because giving advice in the gym is kind of frowned upon. It's kind of like people have their headphones on, they're just there to their work. I've also given advice in the gym as wearing the trainer shirt, and people are like, "I know what I'm doing," and I'm like, "Okay, well, whatever."
Yeah.
But I went over, talked to a female, which talking to a dude is like, "What's up, bro? Like, good lift, but can I give you a tip?" It's totally different as a guy to talk to a female, but she's got her headphones on and everything. And so we talked about leveling up in life. I made a video after that experience, and I was like, I just gained some XP points in the game of life today. I went over and I gave some people, piece of advice. Did she use it? Not at all. But it's okay. One day she's going to think about that exercise. She's going to think about how it's Bulgarian split squats, right?
Okay.
And she was trying to set up for him, and she kept doing all this hopping. And I gave her a little tip, right? And for everybody listening, the tip is, and it's really hard to demonstrate without showing, but if you sit back on the foot that is on the bench or on the pad or whatever you're using, sit back on that foot, then stick your other leg straight out, and then just push forward, you'll be in the perfect spot.
That's cool. I like that. I like that. I like
And so,
that.
everybody, that's a free tip. I won't charge you
Yeah,
for that. But
that's awesome. I
um,
like that.
one day she might remember that and be like, "Oh yeah, this guy taught me this thing." And it would have
Yeah.
never happened if I didn't step out of my comfort zone. If I didn't, in years past, I would always be like, "Oh, like what if she gets mad at me, or what if this dude doesn't like my advice, or what if I'm
Mm,
wrong?"
right.
So it's funny you talk about like something you wish you would have learned earlier in life is to embrace rejection, to
Yeah.
embrace failure. I think that's something that a lot of people are teaching and talking about now. Another book suggestion that talks about it a lot is Mark Manson, So the Art of Not Giving a Fuck. You
Yeah.
know, but it's really good, and it's one of the better answers I've had to that question. So
I really like that, man. That's a great story. And I'll never forget that tip. Next time I do split squats, I'll remember you for that.
there you go, there you go. Well, do you have any last tips or pieces of advice or stories for the audience listening today?
Oh man, no, that was a pretty all-encompassing conversation. I really appreciate the time, Greg, for the platform, and I'd love to do this again in the future at some point.
Yeah, I'm down. Definitely down to do this in the future again, especially once you get into those new phases of life
Hmm.
with Triumph Fit and
Yeah.
All In and everything you got going on. For everybody listening, I'm going to put all of Tyler's stuff in the show notes, including some of his spoken word, links to everything he's got going on, social medias, everything like that, so you guys can hit him up, check him out. And for everybody listening, as always, keep smiling, keep striving, follow the show for more. Go check out Tyler, and I will catch you guys in the next one.
Appreciate it. Thanks again.